Just what was he thinking? Detective Senior Sergeant Ron Iddles is a respected and, well, very well respected and very experienced homicide detective. He is, as I said last week, a possible future head of the Police Association. Overnight, though, Police Command apologised for Ron Iddles. In a speech in Bendigo, a fundraiser for prostate cancer, he showed guests photographs of a crime scene in the killing of Jill Maher. Now, the Herald Sun reports that her body was shown partly dressed in a grave. That worries me, that concerns me, not for the people present looking at the gruesome photo. It worries me for her family, for the friends of Jill Maher. It's too soon. This is one of the most high-profile and emotional cases. Why show photographs publicly like this? I think it's a bad mistake of judgment. I think it's offensive to the memory of Jill Maher. And I think Police Command was right to apologise quickly. In a sense, I think it's like attacking Jill Maher all over again. With me, the head of the Police Association, Senior Sergeant Greg Davies. Morning.
Morning, Neil.
You don't agree with me. Why?
Well, I don't think it's offensive to the memory of Jill Maher. I think it champions the memory of Jill Maher. Nobody spoke to Ron Iddles about what he did or didn't say or do at that talk in Bendigo.
Well, at the talk, nobody came up and objected. You mean?
Well, nobody spoke to him there. And I'll just make the point, he had firstly been on a day off, in his own time, in his own car, had driven to Ballarat, given a talk to a white ribbon function there, and then drove to Bendigo and gave a talk to an organisation raising money for prostate cancer, again, in his own time, in his own vehicle, at his own cost, at no charge to anyone.
That's nice, but it doesn't sort of justify memory.
No, but he waited around for half an hour after he'd finished that presentation, and a couple of people came up and spoke to him and asked questions, and that was the reason he waited behind. Nobody raised any issues with him. Now, they don't have to if they don't want to. But there are 13 separate oversight bodies that handle complaints and issues with the police force. One wonders why someone couldn't find one of those 13 rather than going to the media, who in turn didn't contact Ron Iddles. Nobody from the Herald Sun rang him. Everyone there's got his phone number. They've had it for 20 years. It hasn't changed. Not one person rang him. Police Command, when they get the story third hand hearsay, they don't ring him either. Nobody rings him. They go off and issue a media statement. They cause a detective inspector to ring the Maher family and apologise to them without ever having spoken to Ron Iddles to find out whether it was right or not. And it was only when Ron Iddles rang Jill Maher's parents last night and spoke to them for half an hour that they expressed their view to him that no apology was required. People needed to stop worrying about this sort of thing and start worrying about fixing the problem.
Okay, well, to look at that in several aspects. One, good on him for doing this sort of community work that doesn't defend a mistake. Second, I wouldn't be concerned about the people at the function looking at the photographs as much as the family. It's ridiculous if Police Command apologise without talking to him. That's just sloppy. That is really bad performance. And the other point is you're saying that Ron Iddles rang the Maher family and they haven't got a problem with it.
That's correct. Now, I spoke to Ron Iddles last night and I've spoken to him again this morning. And he has told me this morning that he spoke to Police Command and he spoke to police media, and then he rang the Maher family and spoke to them, and that's what their sentiments to him were.
Is he able to speak for himself, Ron Iddles? He's declining to overlook.
Well, he's in a position now where if firstly, he was granted permission by the police force to speak to the media, which is unlikely. He goes out and sets the record straight, and that in turn embarrasses the police force, and he's not prepared to do that.
What was he doing? Why do it? It's a very recent case. It's a very emotional case. I know that crime scene photographs can be relevant, but go back in history, or not as gruesome.
Well, if you're trying to get the message across about violence against women in this community, which is a plague on our community, and a number of people, high profile and others, are doing whatever they can to try and reduce it and eventually eliminate it. If you're going to get the message across, you can sit around and talk about historic things that mean very little to people, or you can talk about recent things that are fresh in people's mind and hit them between the eyes with the reality of what happens. And as he said to them, this is not television, this is real. This is what happens, and we have to do something to stop it. Now, he also said that many homicides could be prevented if people just sat down and spoke to each other. Well, talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. He's been the victim of exactly that fault.
Well, there is a fault in the handling of it, I agree, but I would still argue he has done a divisive thing. I think he's done the wrong thing. I think it is offensive to the memory of Gilmar. You've got a partially clad body in a grave. It's pretty gruesome. And a lot of homicide police do these sort of speeches without equally gruesome photographs to make their point, don't they?
Yeah, look, well, they do. Interestingly, according to Gilmar's parents, it's not offensive to her memory.
But that's important.
Well, I think that's the most important. There are people, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, but the important thing here is to get across the message about violence against women. Now, that's what the bloke was doing. He's been doing that for 15 or 20 years, has probably raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in fundraising. We all know about his record, and this is not so much about Ron's record. That, for mine, remains untarnished. It's about the use of one particular photograph, and there was only one of those photographs. It's a public record. It was tendered in the trial. It is available to any member of the public who wants to go and get it.
Oh, yes, that doesn't happen, does it? No, people don't go down to the court and get photographs from crime scenes.
No, well, the media do at times.
That's true.
Historians do.
They haven't published it.
No, they haven't published it. They published a whole lot of stuff out of context and without talking to the fellow concerned, which I personally think is very sloppy.
We're getting a message that Ron Iddles gave a similar talk in Colac in October and showed the photographs. Is that true?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me that he gave a talk in Colac. As I say, he does it all the time. But that's apparently had the kibosh put on it, and I'm advised, I haven't seen the communique, but I'm advised that all police are being told they're not allowed to conduct lectures or deliver lectures to the public. That to me...
Well, they've been stopped from speaking and stopped from showing crime scene photographs.
Well, I'm told that they're being told you're not allowed to do any more presentations to the public. Now, that, if that's correct, just isolates the police force from its community and is not a good move in my idea.
Are there any rules that say just how these photographs can be used by police? And is there any protocol provided? You can go and do a speech, but don't do X, Y and Z with photographs.
Well, it's very much up to the individual. I mean, there are certain things that if I was doing a presentation, and I do them all the time,
sure.
I don't show photographs. I go about it a different way, but everybody does things differently. Quite clearly, and while I'm not actually speaking for Ron Iddles, I'm speaking for a member of the Police Association, he believed that he's turning up to deliver a lecture about homicides. He's a 25-year homicide squad veteran. What did they think he was going to talk about? The price of petrol in Patagonia or murders?
Steve's just called in. Steve, have you seen this presentation from Ron Iddles?
Yeah, honey, I saw it about 3 months ago, and I'd just like to...
Well, hang on, just put you on. Was the photograph of Gilmar shown?
Yes.
Where?
I don't really want to say, because
Okay.
we were asked to sort of keep things a little bit sort of quiet.
All right, but it was a public presentation?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Fundraiser.
Fundraiser, okay.
Yeah.
And what was your reaction to it?
Look, I think that it was obviously in your face, but it was only part of the actual presentation. What the media aren't saying here is that it wasn't just up there for shock value. They actually went through the whole case and how they got on to Ernest Bailey. There was information came out that the public don't know. And it was just a key part of the presentation to show that, I think as you said earlier, it's not TV, it's not CSI. It's
So
not all
you
lovely and wonderful.
You didn't find it offensive or voyeuristic?
No, it was certainly in your face, but that was the point that Ron was trying to make, is that not everything is well-dressed police with great hair and nice clothes.
But Steve, why were you told to keep it quiet?
It wasn't kept quiet. It was just to say that, look, don't make a big thing out of it, because I assumed that they had enough foresight to see that the media would actually jump on it and turn it into something that it's not. It wasn't put up there for shock value. It was put up there for info and to show what actually happened.
I would hope that's not right. They're saying don't tell anybody because it's probably the wrong thing to do. And you're saying you were told information the public doesn't know.
I'd say a little bit. I'd say that the media tends to leave out certain bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, well, there you go. That tends to support your argument.
Well, and I mean, the caller said he assumed certain things, and they were told things that the public doesn't know. Well, Ron Iddles has told me he has done this presentation before. He didn't mention whether or not those photos were used or that photo was used. I didn't ask. But he said certainly he has given that same presentation before, and there have been on occasions 2 or 3 superintendents of police present in the audience. Nobody's raised any objections to it in the past. Now, what he was trying to get across to that audience is that sometimes people confess to all sorts of crimes that they didn't actually commit. Some of them want the notoriety, some of them have got something wrong with them, so they have to go through and verify every aspect of it, and that was part of the presentation.
Just to wrap up, the Marr family, or the parents said, we don't know about the husband, parents said they had no problem with it. What was their reason? There was a bigger issue?
Well, the bigger issue is violence against women and the murder of women. And once it was put in context to them, and once they had spoken to Ron, unlike most other people involved in this, they were quite satisfied with what he'd done and were encouraging of his efforts to try and make a difference.
Are you aware of anybody ever being counselled within the police force for using photographs in speeches like this?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. I reported last week, and I believe it's right, that at some stage Ron Iddles has been suggested as a replacement for you at the Police Association. Is that true?
What is true is that he has said he is interested in exploring the possibility of applying for the position, which isn't incidentally advertised until tomorrow. Look, if Ron Iddles was to apply, and there'll be a Melbourne Cupfield of applicants for it, there always is. Everyone seems to think it's this wonderful, fantastic job. Let me disabuse you of that idea, folks. It's not. But if he was to apply and was to get the position, this will be pretty good grounding for him in how people like to attack your credibility.
Could this be political?
Well, I don't know, obviously, the sources that have gone to the Herald Sun. I don't know the identity of sources that are putting out other stories about other people that may or may not be interested in taking my position when I'm gone, but it's the sort of thing where sometimes you see a conspiracy around every corner, but every now and then one of them is real.
Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure, Neil.